In 2 minutes, I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of the history of red light therapy to date in Parkinson's. So around 2010, 2015, 5 years of animal experiments, but all with kind of promising results. It looks like this treatment may be delivering results. John made a good point earlier on about, well, you put red light in a helmet and it does, only penetrates, a few millimeters into the brain. Towards, I think it's 2015, the animal research found evidence that you don't even need to shine light on the brain. You can shine it onto the body because the mitochondria are all part of a system and connect and feed and pass through cells. You can actually treat the brain by treating the body, this research found. So this has spawned a lot of human studies. This is your first man with Parkinson's with literally a bucket on his head. This was a former MP in Australia, Max Burr, who in 2012 got diagnosed. 3 years later, he was fed up with his neurologist giving him more and more and more. He said, I want to take control. I really want to stop this in its tracks. And he found this red light research team at a professor at Sydney University, John Mitrofanis, and reached out. He says, can I get involved? And he said, listen, this is stuff we're trialing in mice. It's not human ready. And he says, no, I'll make my own helmet. So he went out, he got LEDs and literally built this thing. We make a good point earlier, we talked about the placebo effect, so you don't know how much of this is placebo. It's an N=1 study, but this is his words. Sense of smell came back, writing improved, gait, climbing stairs again, gradual but over several months, some improvements were garnered. And a lot of the helmets today are not a million miles away from that. The human study started around 2016 to 2021. Only 2 were published in that time. This was an interesting one that happened around 2023, I think, 2023. One of these original 2 studies, which came out of Australia, Liebert and Bicknell are interesting names that were kind of leading this research at the time, along with John Mitrofanis. They followed up the original cohort that were published here 3 years later, and about half of them were still using the red light devices. Half of them had dropped out for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't working for them. But the half that were still using it were still getting profound results. We're still getting improvements and we're much better than they would be expected to be. So but this is very early stage research. It's phase 1. And the last kind of sort of point, we're at the point now since 2022, we're only just getting to phase 2 trials. And some of the studies we talked about earlier on, maybe publishing later this year, and certainly over the next 2 to 3 years, and UK universities are involved. But this journey, it takes, on average, 17 years or longer to go from start to finish to get things signed off at phase 3. It took exercise a good 15, 20 years, if not longer, before we could say exercise will slow down. It took 20 years to get to that point. So you've got a choice in February. You can either wait 20 years till your neurologist is ready to say, yeah, there's something in this treatment, or you can come along in February and figure out for yourself why it might just make a difference.
And we're bring more Christmas lights with us.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've all got access, this is free between now and then, you've all got access to the cheapest form of red light treatment available. What is the most constant supply that we have? Sunlight. It's got blue all the way through to red. And when the sun comes up and falls down, what colour is the sky? It's orange and red. That's because the blue light's filtered out by the atmosphere. So get out for walks, get a bit of daylight. You'll be getting a little bit of this red light between now and February, and let's find out why it could be so exciting and promising for all of us.